I think losing my brother was just the extra push to get me through there and really get more vulnerable, man. I think people don't want to be vulnerable. And I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities and more connections. 100%, man. 100%.
Welcome to Behind Their Success. This podcast is for people who are feeling stuck on their entrepreneur journey or in their careers. It's for people who want to scale and grow their businesses, learn about the power of mindset, or they just know there's more out there and they want to start making changes. I'm Peyton Squires, the host of the podcast. I was never cut out to be an employee, and when I was an employee, I was bored out of my mind. So I made a plan. I studied and passed the CPA exam in 8 months while working, all with the end goal in mind of quitting my job and starting my own business. I did that in 2014, and it's been an amazing wild ride since. So now let's hear from other entrepreneurs and what mindsets, and probably more important, what actions they have taken that have created and led to their success. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Behind Their Success podcast. I am Peyton Squires, the host, and today we have a special guest on for you, Landon Malave. He's a good friend of mine that I've gotten to know over the last year and a half or so. He is the owner of 3 companies. There's LCM Waterfalls and Ponds, Peaks to Plains Landscape, and Athos Rocks. These are all located in the greater Colorado Springs area. I'm excited to have him on this morning to talk a little bit about his journey. Like I said, I've gotten to know him quite a bit over the last year and a half or so. We're in a mastermind group together, and he is a great entrepreneur and, more importantly, even a better human. Landon, welcome on the podcast, man.
Glad to be here, Peyton.
Absolutely, buddy. So happy to have you, man. Give us a little background about you, about your businesses and kind of...
All right, man. I grew up on a farm out in the middle of eastern Colorado and loved sports, went to play baseball. You can see the Rockies behind me here. But ultimately, man, I love being outside. I decided that the baseball thing wasn't going to really work out. So I ended up going to horticulture in Denver and then started up working for another landscape contractor, doing design work and project management. And then ultimately I decided to start up my own. And it's kind of manifested into these 3 companies now because we did a couple different assets of the businesses. We did kind of landscape construction, water features, and then we did the manufacturing of the faux rock. And so they all intertwine, but I decided to separate those 3 and really hone in on each one of them and try to grow them all as their own entity. And so that's the short story. There's a lot of ups and downs in between there and a lot of fun and headache, but that's like the short, simple.
Yeah. So yeah, Landon, so you got 3 different companies there, and I've seen some of your waterfall stuff you do. It's really amazing. Some really cool waterfall pieces. Tell us about those companies and how they're going, or what's your focus?
Yeah. So when I started doing the landscape construction, I actually met my mentor who had been building waterfalls for the last 50 years. And that really made me want to go into kind of that industry. So I really took a right step there and went more to custom waterfalls and ponds and started building some really cool, extravagant stuff, man. And I appreciate you loving our work, but it's been a long journey. But ultimately, Rick was able to teach me how to build them very big from the very beginning. So we like to build large scale waterfalls and ponds, and we're not like little 10-foot streams. Like we're trying to do 50 by 100 ponds with 25, 30-foot waterfalls going into them with streams coming down and lots of interaction, like miniature pools pretty much. And so that's kind of the direction that it went. And now we're literally, we cleaned out the Broadmoor yesterday, which is a lot of people know down in Colorado Springs, the old hotel down there. We're getting into some doors getting some awesome opportunities to redo some lakes and some large scale ponds for like golf courses. And we have a lead from Hawaii right now for Athos Rockworks. It's like for their penguin exhibit. So things are like really cool right now. It's going a little crazy, but it's a lot of fun, man. We're getting some great opportunities and just trying to build a really good team around it so that we can continue to offer that great customer service. You mentioned it earlier, but I love humans. I love connection. And that's really what's done it for me. And that's allowed me to get where I'm at today. And all those connections are coming into place now, I feel. And so it's really fun to kind of see that foster and actually come to fruition, because it's something that my mentor did. He traveled all over the world to do these waterfalls and ponds. And ultimately, it's been one of my goals as well, So trying to follow in his footsteps a little bit. And it's a hard door to open, man. It's a pretty tight knit world, especially in the
Hmm.
large scale stuff, because it's very commercial. And once those guys find their guy, that's pretty much it. And so to
Yeah.
get into that world is a little tough, but we're getting there, man. And it's fun to see those opportunities arising like the Broadmoor and this golf course lake. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. So you talk about relationships, right? And getting to know you. I know you're a relationship guy. Tell me a little bit more about that and relationships and how you see that as a key to your success.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a great segue because I think without all the connections that I've made, even with my mentor from the very beginning, he saw something in me. I knew how to work very hard coming from Eastern Colorado from a farm, but I made that connection with Rick where, he saw something in me and allowed me to teach me and mentor me through that stuff. And all the way from there, man, I believe in treating everybody the same. I always tell people like you never know who you're gonna meet. You want to treat everybody with the exact same respect and utmost care as you can. And so I treat my customers, my people, even relationships like you, man. I truly honor our relationship. I think you're an amazing human, and I just try to surround myself by those people. And in doing that, I've made some really amazing connections with customers, with contractors, people all over the United States now with our mastermind group. And I think that I didn't really understand the power of connection. I had a loss of a brother, and I think that kind of woken me up a little bit and made me really understand that connection and people are my superpower. And I think that I overlooked that a little bit, but now I'm understanding a little more and I'm seeing that kind of foster. And it's really amazing how many great people there are. Like that mastermind group of ours, there's a lot of people in that group, and there's some amazing, amazing humans in that group that just love each other, have fun together, try to push each other. And those connections are super, super important. And I don't think I probably could have handled it 5 years ago, but I'm really grateful for all those relationships and understanding and those connections that I've made and where they've brought me now, because it's, things are going a little crazy, man. We're going to start like traveling out of state because people trust us and they believe in us. And so, building those connections is the first thing. And from there, they can see our work, they trust us, and then it's just like it's game on. So it's going to get
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
real soon.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that is something significant that's happened in your life since I've known you, that you had a passing of your brother, and which had a significant, impact and a definitely mindset shift on you. Can you, speak a little bit about that of how, how you kind of reevaluated your life a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. It was a really, really tough time. It was an unexpected loss. He was only 3 years older than me, and so it was really difficult time in our lives. It was a year and a half ago now at this point, and from a simple back surgery. But what it made me do is it really made me look at everything in a different way. My children, my wife, my guys, just people in general, man. People are very important, and like I said, I had a lot of those connections. I'd built a lot of those connections, but those connections were a lot deeper than I thought they were, all the way to my heart, man. I have a huge heart. I love people. I have no problem telling guys, I tell you guys all the time, I love you, because I think it's super, super special and super important to just let people know that, because you never know when it's going to be the last time. And
Yeah.
you don't want to regret not being able to say that. So there's a lot of good people out there, man. And it made me realize that.
Yeah, man. And the important thing is what you do, is awful and tragic as that situation is, you used it for as much good as you could, right? And taking that situation and reevaluating your life and using it as not a good situation. Obviously, it's not good, but using it as a jumping off point to make your life better in the ways you can use it to make your life.
Yeah. It was really, really difficult, but it really woke me up, man. And it really made me understand what life is about. And I almost feel guilty saying it because I have learned and grown so much in a year and a half. And since that loss, that it's truly changed who I am as a human. And I think that, if everybody could think that way, it sucks because, like you said, you don't want to look at a tragic loss as like a win. But ultimately, man, my brother was trying to teach me something. And what
Mhm.
he's taught me is invaluable to my life for sure and changed it completely. So
Mm, that's awesome stuff, man. So, entrepreneur journey, man, it's just been easy and smooth. I'm sure no problems whatsoever. So, along your journey, what would you say is one of the best decisions you've made that's really led to a lot of your success?
there's been multiple, I think just kind of sucking up my ego a little bit and working under Rick was like the first one probably. Cause that
Mm.
was really difficult. He's very old school and, he's yelling and screaming all the time, and that's not for everybody, and it was difficult, but I think it was, like, kinda the first one that was allowed me to kinda take a step back and learn and know that this man had a lot to teach me, and so when I did that, it changed my career, absolutely, and changed my life, and then from there, man, just taking leaps along the way and not questioning everything. I bought a property out east of town a little ways, that was a huge leap for me. Leveraged myself pretty hard and, moved my family out of town at a place we've been in for 12 years. And it was one of the best things I ever did. And then from there, joining like the groups that we're in now and like sales training groups and stuff when I was very competitive and I was like, well, they're competition. I don't want to have anything to do with them. And it's really not a good way to go through life, man. It's very lonely. And, that was kind of honestly probably the last thing. And then I think losing my brother was just the extra push to get me through there and really get more vulnerable, man. I think people don't want to be vulnerable. And I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities and more connections. 100%, man. 100%. People need that. People want that vulnerability. They're just too afraid to do it. And with my personality, luckily, like I really don't care. And then losing my brother made that even worse. And it was really a blessing. So, that was kind of the last leap is just joining some groups of people that think the same as we do, feel the same as we do. Like you said, going through the entrepreneur struggles of starting businesses and rebranding and changing everything and hiring. And like it's a lot, man, So just taking some of those leaps and chances to get through.
Yeah, so, just to recap a little bit there of what Landon said, what I'm hearing there is, 1, he talked about his mentor, Rick, there, so having the humility to learn under somebody and to take in information is massive, and then 2 is to I guess there's 3 points here, but 2 is to not only have that humility, but also then have the work ethic to follow it up and to be able to take risk and take chances even when you don't have all the information, because 'cause you're never gonna have the information. And then finally, I'm trying to remember what the third point you made was, but
Sorry, man. I keep going.
it's relationships and vulnerability, right? Is the ability to be authentic and open with people, because when you're vulnerable and give somebody, some vulnerable piece of you that they could theoretically hurt you with, right, by opening yourself up, that builds trust between 2 people, right? When you make yourself available to where somebody could hurt you, that is actually going to build trust between 2 people.
Yeah, man. That just gave me the chills. It's true though. It really is, man. As an entrepreneur, you think that you need to do it alone, and it's not true. I like I said, I was super competitive. I didn't want to collaborate with any other landscape contractors, and now we're building waterfalls for multiple other companies, and I'm building a ton of more relationships and meeting new people, and going to be traveling the United States to be building water features now. And so if there's any suggestion that I can give to people is just don't be afraid to reach out to other contractors, get in groups, take that leap and be more vulnerable because the return on it is going to be massive.
So on the flip side of all that, what's one big old mistake you've made along the way?
Oh, that's a good question. There's plenty of them, but I'm trying to
A
think
couple of them, probably,
yeah, I'm
I'm
trying
sure.
to think of the best one. I think probably 4 years into the company, I wanted to grow really fast. Like I'm impatient as part of my personality. Like I don't want to wait for anything.
Mm.
And I hired like 14 guys from the oil industry. Like the oil industry went down, tanked, and there was all these guys looking for work. And I had a guy that knew somebody on there and he on the oil rigs, and he called me one day and was like, "Hey man, I've got 7 or 8 guys." And I just went all in and hired all those guys. And I thought I was making all this money and working my tail off and just running ragged. And got through 2 years and like realized that I wasn't making anything. Like I was just beating my head against the wall. And so
Mhm.
jumping into something like that without any strategy, without any planning, without people around you is just really not a good idea, man. Like I had to take a step back about 3 years and go back to 4 or 5 guys and then slowly start building back. Now we have 12 to 15 guys, but we're doing way, way more work and it's way more efficient and we're making more profits. And so that was a huge learning lesson for me.
Yeah, and I see that kind of story very often, being an accountant and working with lots of different businesses. I think people outside of entrepreneurship may be shocked to realize how many people jump into business without necessarily even checking any of the numbers to see if like your margins or anything makes sense whatsoever, right? And I mean, like I don't know how many businesses I see that people take on a bunch of debt to open a store or take on, to jump into entrepreneurship without having any plan to profitability. And these people will work 2 to 3 years, realize, man, I've just worked for 3 straight years and not made a dollar, and quit and close up shop. It's such a common story and a huge reason why, the stat of, I don't know, what is it, like 80% of businesses don't make it more in a couple of years. That's a big reason why.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's not for the faint hearted. Like it takes a lot of persistence and grit and will to
You're
win
going to get punched in the face.
multiple times and yet multiple times. So yeah, man, like it's tough. And to do it alone is really hard, and there's plenty of people that are readily available online. There's amazing ways to network now where there's guys that are already doing it. That's the special
Mhm.
thing about our group. There's guys that are doing like 1 million up to like $100 million in business, and we all have the same problems, and we can all
Mhm.
have good insight for each other. And so, opening up to that idea of, hey, it would be better to have some other people around me and make a plan and have other people to hold you accountable to those plans and goals and even just work through them, man. Like there's a lot of stuff going on up here, but if it's not on paper, you don't have some sort of plan, you're going to do like I did for 10 years and just beat your head against the wall until finally you like go, maybe I should try something different.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's a combination of, people jumping in, they don't know what they're doing. Their pride gets in the way. So they don't want to ask people for help, or they're afraid they can't talk to different people, or no one wants to help them. But like, for example, like you were talking about your mentor, Rick, earlier, anybody who's successful in business, what have you, can point to people like Rick in their lives that maybe even took pity on you or what have you, saw something in you that it's like, okay, this kid's not a total waste of space. Let's try to invest in him a little bit. And we all get lucky, like, in finding people that are willing to feed into us. And then in turn, as you grow and you have a little success, you want to give that back, right? I'm sure feeding into your guys on your team and in different relationships around, like in our group, and being able to be there as a resource for each other and give back just as you had been given to, is huge.
Yeah, man. And that's something that I haven't had time for. And there's a lot of things in business that you just don't realize like it takes so much time. And so in doing what we're talking about and planning and strategizing and going through that stuff allows you to be able to do some of these things that you're talking about, like give back. Like I was an FFA growing up, Future Farmers of
Mhm,
America out in Eastern
mhm,
Colorado. And it's something that, there's a lot of amazing kids and those hardworking kids in those FFA programs that I might possibly be able to get into the workforce. And not only that, but show them an opportunity of a career that is a very viable and profitable career if they put their mind to it. And it's something that not a lot of kids know. Like I didn't know about it. There wasn't landscaping and on the farm. Like there was sod and trees and stuff, but not near what we're doing. I mean, we're doing, $500,000 backyards with crazy waterfalls and all this fire pits and patios. And so it's amazing way to show those kids that, hey, there's some other opportunities to work with your hands. And I love it, man. I actually built one of my best experiences of all time was I got with the local school here and we built a waterfall with the kids, with the FFA kids
mhm.
out by in between the baseball diamond and the football field, which is actually really cool because my kids are going to be going there for the next,
That's all.
how many years. And so we get to enjoy it every day. But that experience was just amazing, man, working with those kids and seeing their faces when we got that thing running and So giving back is something that I haven't had time for, but absolutely something that is in my future to look towards and help those people, help kids that, like you said, maybe give them a chance that maybe they never had.
Yeah. And that's awesome stuff, man. So looking back, let's talk to 21-year-old Landon. What are you telling him?
I'm going to tell him to put his ego aside, man. Put his ego aside. I said this on another podcast, but put the ego aside, get vulnerable, look for other people. There's plenty of other people that are willing to, like I said, it's a mutual thing. Everybody's going through the same thing in business. So if you can find other business owners to get vulnerable with and understand their struggles and yours, you're going to get some value there. And if I would have done that a lot sooner, I think that my career path would have been a little bit different. I don't think I was ready for it, to be 100% honest with
Right.
you. It took some time for me to really get vulnerable and allow myself to kind of go down that road. But man, I just wonder if I could have found a group like this 5 years ago, what that would have done for me now.
And it's true what you're saying there is 5 years ago, you wouldn't even have seen the group. Or I mean, by that, I mean, like you weren't ready for it, right? You wouldn't have seen the value in it. You wouldn't have been near as good a member, all those
Yeah.
things, right? And my journey is very similar too. I look back to 20-some-year-old Peyton and thinking that, yeah, I didn't have any of the execution power I do now. I was a whole lot less vulnerable and opened up. But it's like I don't know if that's fear or just life had beat you up in different ways over the years and you close in, and it's a lot of insecurities. But yeah, I would say the last 10 years of my life has been slowly opening up, becoming more self-aware, becoming more vulnerable, becoming more comfortable with myself. And that has led to so many different success and opportunities and fantastic relationships.
Yeah, man. And I think that's something that's really overlooked. We were talking about earlier that it's, you're macho man. You want to do it yourself. You don't want anybody's help. And you got to find yourself first, man. We talk about it a lot in our group. And I think that's what Kyle did for me. Losing him, it made me kind of look at myself more. And I was at that point where I was looking for something. I was beat my head against the wall for 10 years, as I said. I knew that there needed to be some sort of change. There's got to be a better way. And so I think just looking in the mirror, being self-aware, like you said, and then being more vulnerable just allows you to be better with yourself, but also everybody around you. And I think that's when it gets really special.
Yeah, that's when the relationships get real, get deep. And then you create a group of people that that you always have in your back pocket, and everybody's there for each other in really all the different realms of life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's truly special, man. I would have never imagined, our mastermind group getting as close knit as it did. And especially 5 years ago, man, like you said, I wouldn't have been near as vulnerable. I wouldn't have opened up. I wouldn't have been near as involved in the group. I wasn't ready. But man, it is so special to see some of the relationships that have fostered and where things are going and how close we all really got with each other. It's like brothers, man. I'd do anything for you guys. So
The future's bright, man.
oh yeah, man. And that's the thing is, you don't realize what it's going to do for your business. I think people think that they're two separate things. And it's like, well, your personal life, you as a person has everything to do with the business, especially if you're like us and trying to run it on your own. Like it's amazing what that will open up in the business side of things. So that's a great point, man, is it has everything to do with each other. They coincide. And so if you can figure out the one, you're automatically going to achieve the things that you want on the other side. And I think that's a huge misconception. Just like, oh, my personal life and my business are two completely different things. And it's like, no, they're really not.
Yeah, if you're the leader of that business, man, like your self-development, your skills and leadership ability and everything, you are the business. Like you're the bottleneck of everything. And the more you develop yourself and open yourself up, that allows the business and the people under you to grow that much more. Without your growth, they're not, the people under you are not necessarily ever going to outpace your growth. You're the bottleneck.
And the culture, man, you set the culture. So if you're not happy with yourself, how are you treating your employees? How are you treating your family? I remember going so hard that like I'd come home and I was so done, man. I didn't have anything left in the tank. But your culture is everything, and that all feeds through the whole company. And so if your culture with yourself isn't good, it's tough to build a good team around that.
And knowing your culture index and knowing you're a high B, right? Relationships are extremely important to you. And I can't imagine you running solo. That's That's certainly not healthy for you.
No, man, no, it was, the winters were always really tough for me. I hated it. I'm not
Winters out in Colorado, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, man, our jobs got way slower. Like you said, the connections I think I was making, that's probably a huge part of it was just the connections that I was doing all summer, meeting all these new people and creating relationships. And then going to much lesser of that was tough for me. And it got super lonely, man. Seriously, like 10 years in, I was like, man, I need to figure out something different. And so
Yeah,
I'm just stubborn enough that I looked for some different ways and found some amazing people.
that's awesome. So, Landon, what's the best way people can connect with you, get to know more about your company? Personally, I know I've seen a lot of your social media and the waterfalls and the videos of that. Guys, you should check those out. They're really cool. He's doing some really cool stuff and like just a flat out artist when it comes around with waterfalls and features and stuff like that. But Landon, what's the best way people can connect with you?
Thank you for that, man. But ultimately, like YouTube, we're on YouTube, LCM Waterfalls and Ponds. All the social links, you can just look up LCM Waterfalls and Ponds, and that's going to show you all the videos that Peyton's talking about. And you're going to see me on there showing off some waterfalls and talking about them. So anything online, you can find us anywhere.
Awesome. Landon, buddy, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. This is a great conversation. I can't wait to see where our future goes, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me and have a wonderful day, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you found it valuable, please rate, review, and share it. That is the best way to help us build this and reach more people, as we're trying to accomplish our goal of help creating more healthy, wealthy, and wise entrepreneurs. You can follow us on social media by searching for me, Peyton Squires, or going to PeytonSquires.com. On the website and social media, we're always sharing tips of personal growth, and there we can actually interact. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.